It's such a privilege to be with you tonight and share with everybody. It's, of course, also a huge responsibility. And although I've been doing this kind of thing for so many years, I must say I'm still a bit nervous sitting here in front of you because of the huge responsibility. Now, we joined Neolife in 1983. I assume many of you on this call may not even have been born then. I've been in Neolife longer than not being in Neolife. And that is such a privilege. I'm so happy and grateful that Neolife found us. I shudder to think that the person who sponsored us may have not called me, set up a meeting and come and show me the opportunity. I don't know where we would have been. But then also, you know, today there's so many people who, because he came to see me, also found this opportunity. And that to me is so gratifying. I'm really so happy to be part of Neolife. You know, and having had this long exposure to the company, I can tell you that I don't want to be anywhere else. There are other companies, some not so wonderful, some so-so, a couple of good ones, but really, in my opinion, there's no company, no place to be like Neolife. I thank God ever so often that Neolife came into our lives. I was in full-time church ministry at the time. I was working extremely long hours. So when we saw the opportunity, firstly, I didn't really understand the full impact of it. At best, I thought it was for my wife to sell some Super 10 and LDC at parties and, you know, make us a little bit of extra money. And that certainly would have helped. But then as I got more exposure, I started seeing that there's much more to it than just selling some products to a few ladies here and there. And in fact, I was so impressed by what I learned about the company that in time I decided that I leave the ministry to make Neolife my career. Now that was a huge step for me. You must understand that from when I was very small, ministry was the one thing that I was going to do for the rest of my life. But I realized that I could be ministering outside of the walls of the church as well, through being in business. So for me, Neolife has also been a wonderful vehicle for doing what I think I was born to do. But in the process of being involved with Neolife, our lives were completely changed. If I think of the kind of income I'm blessed to earn today, it was, I couldn't even imagine something like that. The lifestyle, being my own boss, all the traveling, man, that is so great. You know, I'm tempted to talk about that, but let me leave it at that. Now, I just celebrated my 74th birthday. So, you know, I often think that where would I have been without Neolife? Maybe dead, because the products certainly have made such an impact on my health. If not dead, probably run down in some old age home somewhere. And really, my life today is so much the opposite of that. There's life. There's so much promise for the future. There's still so much to achieve. And that's one thing about Neolife. It's not just something, if you understand it correctly, that you do for a season and then leave it behind. Some people do, and that's fine. I have a very good friend in the business. He's, in fact, the Sapphire director. But outside of Neolife, he built a very, very successful other kind of business. And just last week, he was saying to me that it's what he learned in Neolife that helped him be successful in what he then went to do. So Neolife is so special, and it offers us so much. So what I'm saying is, please don't look at Neolife just as a stopgap or as a seasonal thing. Let Neolife become your life. Let Neolife become your future and shape your future. And it's not just about the money. It's about the lifestyle, the friendships, the personal development. You know, I said to you, I was in ministry. I majored in psychology and philosophy and later on in theology. And all along, I never learned anything about personal development. I had to come to Neolife to learn about that. And you know, that is so enriching. That is what we always talk about when we say the third thing in the daily success habits is personal development. For the simple reason, the better you become, the better I become, the better everything around us becomes, because we attract what we give out. So just to, by way of introduction, say to you that I'm so grateful for Neolife. And as I go along, the more exposure I get, the more I'm tied into this business. Now, you're all aware that we've just celebrated 50 years of Neolife in Africa, of course, internationally, much longer than that. But just to add this, that, you know, Neolife is not 50 years old. Neolife is a 50-year new company, young, vibrant, growing, dynamic, better than ever. Today, there is so much extra support. It's so much easier to expand your business far and wide. It amazed me. I checked last month. I was getting paid commissions out of, I think it was 21 or it might have been 27. I stand corrected. Countries all over the world, even for us, a rather obscure country like Finland. Now, how on earth could one do that without the infrastructure and the support structures that Neolife gives us? Now, you must know that Neolife has proven itself. Nobody can credibly claim that Neolife doesn't work. There is just too much proof, too many success stories. And what you must understand, if it works for anybody else, it can work for you too. Provided, of course, that you work. See, Neolife works if you work Neolife. But then also you must work it correctly. Now, I'm thinking of a cake and a recipe that you might use to make a lovely cake. If you look at this recipe and you say, well, you know, I don't like sugar, I'll rather put some garlic in. And I haven't got flour, I'll put in some sand. You know, your cake is obviously not going to be what it should be. So you need the right ingredients in the right proportions. And I just briefly want to touch on some of the ingredients that I found is important to be successful in Neolife. And the first thing is your mindset, my mindset. What is that? That's the way we think about things, about life, about ourselves, about other people. Do you like people, or are you sort of, you know, it's also called your attitude. Now, why this is important is because our mind affects our emotions. And our emotions affects the way we act. And the way we act has a bearing on our results. So if my thinking is negative, my emotions are going to be down. I'm going to act in a negative sort of way, and my results are not going to be what I really wanted it to be. So this now becomes a vicious circle, because now my results reinforce what I'm thinking. We just have a saying that you can't go forward if your mind is in reverse. You know, the power of the mind is, it's been proven. They talk about psychosomatic diseases. That's where people become sick by thinking themselves sick. So we need to train our minds to think positively, to think about possibilities and look for possibilities. Don't always look for the problems. Look for the possibilities. Think success. Think hope. Against being negative and being in a mind frame of, oh, everything is hopeless, the country is going down the drain, my business is not growing, I can't do it. You know, those thoughts are like weeds that will stifle any beautiful garden. So think about how you think. Check your thinking. Think possibilities. Think of what can. Because if you do, that will give you hope. It will energize you. And if you do that, you're in with a chance. The second thing that I want to touch on is you've got to have a very clear and a very, very strong why. Your reason. Why did you join? What do you want from New Life? See, motivation is really an inside job. If I'm not motivated to do something, people can nag me, they can try and push me, they can try and incentivize me, but I won't really do what I don't really want to do. So it's important for you to not lose focus of why you joined the business. If you're like me, I didn't join with any big dreams or any big expectations. I was hoping for an extra 200 or 300 rand a month. But at least that was some motivation. When we started achieving that and more, I started having more things that I wanted to achieve. And so it goes. And even today, we've been blessed to have achieved so much. But even today, there are things that I still want to achieve. I'm crazy about traveling. And I can tell you there's still so many places I want to go to. But not just that. Today, there's so many people who need help. And you know, if you're poor, you can't help poor people. If you're stuck, you can't help other people who are stuck. So to me, it's so important to be in a position where it's not just about what we want to do, but also helping other people who are maybe not in a position to really help themselves. So if your why, your reason for doing the business is not very clear and compelling, it would be easy for you to give up. Now, my sponsor did just that many, many years ago, even before we really got going in the business. You know, I calculated some time ago that if he just stayed in the business, became a qualified director, he would automatically have been a sapphire director with me downline. And conservatively, I imagine that over the last 30-odd years, he must have lost at least about 4 million rand in bonuses, if not more, because he quit, because his reason for staying in the business was not strong enough. You see, sometimes our success and the breakthroughs we want don't come when we want it or as soon as we want it. And then you need perseverance. But to persevere, you need to have a good reason to do so. Third thing is, in the process, we've got to accept or expect setbacks and challenges. You know, that's life. I'm sometimes amazed that people come into Neo Life and they think all this is going to be plain sailing. They're never going to be challenges. It's just going to be easy. But Neo Life is not divorced from life. And in life, success is always uphill. If success was easy, it would have very little value. That's why we admire people who reach the highest levels, people who get rewarded the Nobel Prize, people who get a gold medal at the Olympics, the Springboks for finally winning a game. You see, success is valuable because it's not easy. And one of the reasons we will have setbacks and challenges in our kind of business is because it's a people business. We work with people, and people can be wonderful. People can really make your life. But there are also people who do the opposite, people who disappoint you, even people who go against you. And if we don't realize that that is just how it is, it could really trip us up. So we just have to keep on. We always talk about the 80-20 rule. And this applies to all sorts of business, any kind of business, not just network marketing, which means 80% of people won't, only 20% will. So we've got to do a lot of digging to get to the 20%. And in the process, we're going to have our disappointments. So what? That's not important. The important thing is to get to the people who will change your life and your business around. That brings me to the next point, and that's that we need to think long-term. Our success is not necessarily going to come in the short term. Maybe it will. I have people in my own team who've become director and hired in such a short time that it makes me look foolish. But not everybody is going to move at the same speed. And the fact is, it's a big mistake that people often make. They expect too much too soon and too little in the long term. You see, our business, when you understand it, starts with 1 or 2 people in your team. They get 1 or 2 people. And it takes a while to build up momentum. And only when there's enough people who are active and who are working and doing what you're doing, will that momentum gain momentum, as it were. In my own case, what is today probably the biggest part of my business only came 9 years after I got going. I had some success in that time, but nothing major. Another example, I was working in one of the African countries 12, 13 years, 14 years ago, at great expense, a lot of time spent there, no results. But you know, the seeds that I sowed then is now starting to pop up and bring results, more than a decade ago. So the thing is, what we do today may not give us the results we're looking for today. But if we keep doing what we're doing, the results will come, and maybe 5 or 10 years down the road, you'll have some results from what you did today from an area where you never even expected it. The next point is that we need to learn to value ourselves. Now, maybe I'm talking to the converted, but very often we look at ourselves, or we look at other people and we say, oh, look at them. They're so successful. I could never be like that. I firmly believe that God didn't put any one of us on earth to fail. You, just as myself, were not made to fail. We are worthy of success. But as I said, success isn't going to come looking for you, nor for me. I wish it did. We've got to look for it. We've got to work for it. Sometimes we've got to fight for it. But just accept it, that you have what you need to be successful. Don't look at other people and compare yourself to other people and say, oh, I'm not like this, or I can't be like that person. You're not meant to be like anybody else. You are a unique person with your unique abilities and talents. All that maybe needs to happen is that you need to develop and grow your talents and your abilities. And just remember, your failure helps nobody. But your success can make a difference in many, many lives. So if others can, you can. Don't undervalue yourself. And to go along with that, we need to understand that in our kind of business, we need to value people. Success in network marketing is not a solo effort. If I look at the results in my team of the last month, I just know I could never do that alone. Not even 1% of that. But it's amazing what can happen if there is a team. But a team will only grow around you when people realize they're safe with you, when they realize that you value them and that you care for them. And that's why we have a saying, build people, not a business. Because if you build people, you'll automatically build a business. So on the negative side, never, ever devalue anybody in your business or obstruct people in any way. I will always refer to the very famous saying of Zig Ziglar, who said, you can have everything in life you want if you help enough other people have what they want. And that's exactly network marketing. That's exactly what Neolife wants us to do. Help other people move up, and they will move you up. So in that process, next point, you've got to be willing to sacrifice. That means you've got to give up something, some time, in order to find time to focus on doing the 3 daily success habits. It's not just going to happen, without you looking for it to happen. Drew used the word, you've got to become intentional. You've got to be intentional about spending time, on using the products, sharing the opportunity, and on personally developing. Now, for many people, the word sacrifice has a negative meaning. It means you've got to give up something. Sure. But if you give up something of a lesser value, let's say watching TV every night, you give up that time, you build a business, and that business gives you a lifestyle that you could never even have dreamt of. Is that sacrifice negative? Of course not. Sacrifice in terms of what I'm talking about is giving up something of a lesser value to gain something of a higher value. So if you want to really get the best out of Neolife, don't do it half-heartedly. It doesn't mean you've got to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week. It's meant to start part-time. You can become very successful part-time, provided you're not half-hearted, provided you put in the effort, provided you do things the right way. And in the process, working to build other people. Excuse me. Now, let's get to the last point that I want to stress this evening. You now realize that you've got to do some work, and you know what the work is. Well, using the products is not actually work, it's a privilege. But the work is sharing the product, sharing the opportunity, and developing personally. Now, again, use the word intentional. We've got to become intentional about that. In other words, we've got to plan when to do it, with whom, how much time we're going to spend, what are we going to do. So the first thing starts by planning your time, making time for the business. And then really, folks, committing to that time. If your time to work this week is tomorrow night between 7 and 10, and your friends phone and say, hey, we want to pop over for a visit or a couple of drinks or whatever. You just need to say to them, sorry, I'm committed, I'm not available. See, if you work for a boss and you wanted to go to work tomorrow, and your best friend said, listen, don't go to work, I'm coming over for a braai, would you do that? So don't be more serious about working for somebody else than you are about working for yourself. So once you've set or planned the time that you're going to work, and you've committed yourself to that time, now you've got to set targets. Because if you're just going to do things and be busy, you might be very busy, but not effective. So you've got to set targets, you've got to set goals. Now, there are 2 types of goals. They're your achievement goals, like let's say you say, well, I want to do 2,000 points this month. That's an achievement goal. And I want to take my step to whatever it is. That's an achievement goal. And I want to do a 3 and 30. That's an achievement goal. But an achievement goal is meaningless unless you also have action goals. What are you going to do to help you achieve your achievement goals? So you've got to set goals for how many new customers, for instance, do you want to develop this month? How many of your existing customers do you need to follow up, to reservice them, to maybe upsell them to using more products than they are currently using? Then you've got to set a goal. How many people do you need to talk to, or do you want to talk to this month? Now, remember, the fewer people you talk to, the slower your results are going to be. And possibly the more negative you're going to become, because if you talk to 5 people and all 5 say no, that's a huge negative. If you talk to 20 people and 15 said no, it's a bit of a negative, but it's definitely not the same. So you have to have enough people that you want to approach as customers, enough people you want to approach for the business. So let's say your target for the month is you want to talk to 20 people. Don't wait till 3 days before month end to now start talking to 20 people. Break your action goals down into weekly goals. That means, if my math is correct, you want to talk to, say, 5 people a week. That means 1 a day if you work from Monday to Friday or whatever it is. You see, now suddenly that big goal of 20 is not so daunting because you've broken it down into smaller segments. But now comes the commitment to every day do what you plan to do. So if you for a whole week haven't spoken to any of the people that you meant to, now suddenly week 2 and maybe week 3 becomes a huge burden because now you've got to catch up. So rather do a little bit consistently every day than trying to do a lot all at once. So in setting your goals, you have your achievement goals, but then you've got to really plan how you are going to achieve that. You're not going to get anything done unless you talk to people. So you can set a goal that you want to do so many presentations this week. Set a goal for whatever training you want to present or participate in if you're not in a position to do training yourself. But then you also have to set time aside for what am I going to do in terms of my personal development. Now, today there's so much information you can learn from the back office, from YouTube. There are books you can read, there's DVDs and CDs you can listen to, motivational, inspirational type material. But again, if you don't make time to indulge, if I may use the word, in that, it's not going to help you. So one thing we need to do as we stand at the beginning of the month that we should actually have already done is to already have planned for September. And by Sunday night, you've got to have planned for the week. By tonight, your plans for tomorrow should be in place. Otherwise, one is always on the back foot. Now, if that's not the case, we'll start tonight. Plan the rest of your month. It's maybe not so easy because we're not used to doing that. What we're good at is planning a shopping list, planning holidays, if we can afford them. But we've got to plan our work, our business, and then commit to it. So I hope those thoughts will help you. If I may suggest, when the recording is available, go and listen to this again. Not because it's me, but because of what I've shared with you. it's not, most of it's not my wisdom and my insight. It's things that I've learned as well. But the information is valuable. And I know listening to something once, you don't pick up everything at once. Sometimes some things don't make sense to you when you listen to it the first time. So take time to listen again and maybe again, and put what I've said into practice. Because having the knowledge of something but not using that knowledge is rather meaningless. So in closing, what I want to share with you from my own experience is that if you work hard now and you overcome the challenges and the setbacks, and your attitude keeps improving, in time, you will find yourself in a position where your business starts growing and it starts gaining a momentum and a life of its own, where you start having business in other countries that you even have to maybe go and look on the map where that country is, where you get paid while you sleep. So the key is to keep on keeping on. But while you're keeping on, keep working, keep improving, keep trying, keep in the fight. Those of you who watched the touch rugby on Saturday, this is such a good example. The game was basically over and the Boks would have lost, but they stayed in the fight. And after the whistle, they scored the points that brought them victory. So stay in the fight. It's a good fight. It's not just about us. It's about what can happen through us for others. So, sorry, my throat is getting dry, which is maybe a signal that I should stop. Drew, that's it from my side.